Hello, welcome to the conversation here on News Central Television. This is the program where we bring you all the latest political happenings on the continent. I'm Benga Aboroa.
And I'm Rita Omodia. It's about to get hot in the Nigeria political space, as today on the program, we'll be looking at Nigeria's political space as a list of contenders in the political race for the 2023 election widens. Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has finally declared his interest for the presidency on the platform of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Also, Gambian President's political party won a narrow victory in the legislative elections held on April 9. Adama Barrow's National People's Party, NPP, won 19 of the 53 parliamentary seats up for grabs, according to the country's Independent Electoral Commission. And now we start with our first topic there, where we saw videos circulating on social media. Benga, I don't know if you watched the video of the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, him talking about how much he has done as the Vice President. And now, finally, we saw videos urging him to declare his intention for presidency, but finally, we're seeing him declaring his intention.
Yes.
So let's start with that now. As a Nigerian lawyer, professor, and politician, Osinbajo is the 14th and current Vice President of Nigeria since 2015. He previously served as Attorney General of Lagos State from 1999 to 2007 and holds the title of Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
The Vice President, in a video on social media and via his official Twitter handle, while listing his numerous achievements under the position of Vice President, says he has made up his mind to run for president, a job he understudied for 7 years, which puts him in pole position to win and has the first right of refusal to accept or decline.
Also joining the list is Nigeria's Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi. He made a declaration in his verified Facebook page to contest for the office of the president in 2023. He previously served in oil-rich Rivers State as Governor of Rivers State from 2007 to 2015 and Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly from 1999 to 2007.
Now, since leaving office in 2015, Amechi has been the subject of corruption allegations by successor Governor Nyesom Wike. Wike accused him of using state funds to finance President Muhammadu Buhari's campaign during the 2015 presidential elections through the sale of Rivers State-owned oil and gas assets, an allegation which he has persistently denied. And joining us today for this conversation, we have Abdul Mahmood, a political analyst and human rights lawyer, and Mr. Gwala, political affairs analyst. Gentlemen, a warm welcome to you both, and thanks for joining us on the conversation, Mahmood.
Thanks for having me. Good evening, Nigerians.
Now, let's start with the big news, the breaking news of the Vice President declaring his intention to run for the President under the platform of the All Progressive Congress, which has already zoned its presidential ticket to the South. How big of a chance does he stand, and how does this play out in the bigger scheme of things as we inch towards the 2023 elections?
How big in terms of the electoral chances of APC as a party, or bigness, quote unquote, in terms of the personality of the vice president entering the race? I'll take both. But I'll start first with the latter. It's big. A sitting vice president has thrown his heart into the presidential ring. And if for anything, I mean, listening to the 7 to 10 minutes video he put out early this morning, announcing his intention to join the presidential race. He raised some fundamental issues as regards the successes the presidency that he is part of has scored in the past 7 years. So in the context of that, one can say, well, yes, there's a big masquerade, entering the market square to dance to the beat, to the beats of the drum. How big the electoral chance or chances it is entering into the race portends for the APC. Well, for me, it's a matter of speculation and conjecture. If you look at the figures from the 2019 and 2015, APC didn't score big in terms of rolling a PDP over in the southwest. So I wouldn't say that its entry is big in terms of the electoral figures is going to put on the table, because the opposition party PDP is also big in the region is coming from.
Okay, let's look at this now. Looking at his position as the current vice president, a professor of law, you mentioned his speech earlier on, and during his declaration, he made intentions to complete the task that the President Buhari started. What do you make of this phrase?
It's actually a problematic phrase. If the template the vice president intends to run on is the template of continuity, yes, he has every reason to attach himself to some of the successes scored by this government, which has been part of for the past 7 years. But he cannot detach himself from the criticisms of the government itself, i.e., the failure of the government to place a handle on our national security, the growing decline in the purchasing power of Nigeria, the collapse, if not near total collapse, of the value of Naira itself, and the gamut of problems that were attached to this government. I say it's problematic because if he chooses to hold tight to the success of the regime, people will also remind him of the failures of this government.
So, Abdul Mahmoud, it's almost like a catch-22 situation. You really can't detach yourself from the failures of the government. At the same time, you need to show that loyalty. But looking at the Nigerian political space and the history of vice presidents, how much influence did they really have in terms of policy direction? Because we understand the vice president was in charge of the Economic Stability Committee. Would you absolve him of some of the failures of this administration, knowing that he doesn't really wield executive power and the president is the all-powerful man that calls the shots?
I think we are talking about the failure of APC itself as a party. When it won power in 2015, the party virtually sold itself out to the collegiate structures that surrounded Buhari when he came into power in 2015. The party did not exert control over the presidency itself. So when the presidential campaign started in 2014, Nigerians were told that, look, we have a brilliant tactic, a general who had fought war, who will fight the war against insurgency, against banditry, against kidnapping in our country, against terrorism, terrorism broadly, and a brilliant young lawyer, senior advocate of Nigeria, who has a handle on economics. He will lead the economic team of the president. So if we are looking at this presidency, the leadership of our country within the context of security and economy, one will come away with the feeling that the regime has failed. The purchasing power of the Naira has declined. And Nigerians are facing tremendous economic times, if not disaster, in their individual homes. So it will be difficult for Osinbajo to say that as the star boy that he was held out in 2015 and 2019, we've not seen starhood, in the economy that he leads. But then too, do we blame him? There's a common saying in our country that deputy governors, vice presidents, are spare tires. And if you look at the constitution does not allocate so much power to the vice president and deputy governors. So whatever the vice president does, is at the whims and caprices of his principal, who is the president of Nigeria. So Osinbajo can excuse himself within that quarters, but it will be difficult for him to extricate himself. If he does that, the collegiate group around Buhari will think that this is not our mind. And if he ends up with political power, it's going to show us Pepe, as Nigerians say.
All right, Abdul, it's a tight one for Osinbajo. Let's look at his position now, because the list is actually growing longer. We have Atiku Abubakar, former vice president. We also have national leader of the All Progressives Congress, that's Bola Ahmed Tinubu, also declaring his intention for the presidency. Now, among all the other stalwarts, especially for Tinubu, who would say, a lot of people would say was his political mentor, do you think this will swerve the position for Tinubu, especially through the zoning of the Southwest? You will see the APC trying to narrow votes between Osinbajo and Tinubu.
Yeah, it is an intricate one for the Southwest. Two of its biggest masquerades, who come from the same political group. One the godfather, another one the godson. Though if you follow the news today, the godfather has virtually disowned the godson.
There's no son good enough.
Has virtually disowned the godson, and because it's been zoned to the south, and the south is made up of the southwest, the southeast, and the south-south. If the other two within APC, southeast and south-south, bind together and create some sort of tight political structure, it becomes a challenge to the Southwest that is heavily divided along the Osinbajo and the Tinubu groups and all that. So I don't know how it will pan out, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good. It's not looking good for the Southwest. For two of its masquerade, to be contesting for the same political ticket within the same political party, with the ticket zoned to the large geopolitical section of the country, the South.
Now, Abdul Mahmoud, do you see this? I know it's a hypothetical question. The fact that you have heavyweights vying for the same position as the number one executive position in the land. Would you see this breaking the APC in some way? Will there be a breakaway faction if one of these masquerades, if you've described them, doesn't emerge as the flag bearer?
Breaking away will becomes a function of the strength of the opposing, or it becomes a function of the strength of the opposing party. If I'm a betting guy and I'm in the APC, I look at the strength of the PDP, and let's look at it from this point of view. Today in our country, APC has 21 states that it governs. And if you understand electoral politics very well, it places APC in an advantage position because the power of incumbency is within its reach. And if you look at sections of our constitution, one which talks about how do you emerge president of the country. With APC controlling 21 states, we are speaking hypothetically here, yes. And all that, controlling 21 states. The constitution says you have 2/3 of vote cast in majority vote cast in 2/3 of the 6 states of our country, which is 24. So APC will play for 3 more states for it to capture the presidency in 2023. But if PDP is strong enough, puts itself out as a viable, virile opposition party, the elements within APC will pitch themselves and say, look, if I'm not accommodated by this party, I can move to the other party because the party poses itself as a challenge to the ruling party. The way PDP is structured at the moment, I doubt if any serious politician who has tasted power for 8 years will want to move to an opposition party that will struggle to unseat the ruling party. That is one. 2, we are talking of a ruling party that has 12 to 13 million votes locked down in the north because of the cult-like following of Buhari in northern Nigeria. People suffer this delusion that because Buhari is an outgoing president, he will not have interest in 2023. For me, it's delusional. Because of the collegiate structures around Buhari, there are elements within him who will not want to give up power. So 2023 election will be battle royal, not only for Buhari, but for the collegiate structures around Buhari. So elements within the APC will now be looking at the structure and thinking, will it not be better for me to stay within a party with a president who commands that cult-like following in the north, and mobilize some sort of support for him in my region and see if we can, if we can crest, the winning trade in 2023. So these are the permutations, these are the things politicians will be looking at within the APC. But let us not miss words here. There will be crisis in both political parties stemming from zoning. There will be crisis in both political parties stemming from dominant leadership centers or power centers within the party trying to impose their presidential candidate on the parties. I'm talking in respect of APC and PDP here. So how each of the two parties manages its own crisis will determine the strength that they will go into 2023.
Okay, Abdul, just hypothetically speaking, do we in any way see probably Osinbajo stepping down and giving the way for Tinubu? And also, just to put it there, you brought out President Muhammadu Buhari. I know that the power belongs to the people and a democracy, but in African politics, I think everyone always wants to know what the ruling president, who his supporter is, or who he actually gives loyalty to. And in the speech that Osinbajo gave, he mentioned working with the president for 7 years, working hand in hand with him. Do we see a situation where Buhari will actually place his loyalty on his partner for 7 years, or probably is going to switch sides? What do you think?
How big is the political endorsement by the president of
well, the president has told the nation that he knows his candidate, but he's not going to publicly endorse the person so that he doesn't get assassinated or killed. That is already in the public space. As Osinbajo won the endorsement of the president, there's nothing indicative in the public space that he has. As what's his name, the Minister for Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, because these are godsons of the president. As he won the president endorsement, there's nothing in the public space. Perhaps if you look at photos that are in the public space. I knew the presidential jet. We know that presidential jet was in Port Harcourt the day he declared. We also have seen photo of the chief of staff to the president. It does not point to anything, but in a way, it does suggest that the powers that be might be looking in the direction of Rotimi Amechi. But we're talking of elections where figures will matter, where the Southwest was basically competitive between PDP and APC in 2015 and 2019. You cannot say so for APC in the South in 2015 and 2019. PDP had a upper hand, in the South. So where would a presidential candidate coming from the South mobilize votes from? So these are the permutations, these are the things politicians within the situation rooms of these parties will be looking at. But I think with what we have seen already in the public space, the column inches of support the vice president continue to garner, in our social media space. I think things are looking good. Things are looking good for him, but it is still early days.
Now, Abdul, traditionally in Nigeria's political space, the race for the presidency has always been a two-horse race. So ordinary Nigerians will be hoping that at least these two parties bring out credible candidates that would, lead Nigeria out of the doldrums. Now, this is the 23rd year of our uninterrupted democratic experience. How big of a factor is money, and what will these candidates be telling the delegates? Do you think money will play an influence, or the delegates of these respective parties will look at the Nigerian situation and choose the candidate that is right for the nation?
For the ruling party, I do not think that money will be a factor. I'm working on the basis of a conjecture here. If Buhari shows interest in the political process going forward to 2023, and he gets his godson as the presidential candidate of the party, if what we saw at the convention of the APC is anything to go by, my think here will be that there will be elements within the party who will be ready to play along with the presidential politics of Buhari and accept his candidate as the presidential candidate of the party. because some of these elements will believe that with the president showing interest and him being the outgoing president with 12 million votes locked down, for him in the north, he still has a role to play. Look, let's be honest with ourselves. Nigerian politicians, the governing elites that we have in our country are not interested in developing our country. They're only interested in power. So looking at it from the angle of both political parties, they will be looking at the variables on the table. How do we capture political power? And if Buhari can give them the 12 million vote, from his cut-like followers in the north, I see elements within his party accepting the candidates that he may likely impose on the party. But for PDP, it's going to be free-for-all fight, except some sense come into the heads of the politicians, recognizing the fact that they are fighting, they're going against a ruling party who is in control of what I describe as the axis of evil in our country, INEC, police, and the army. You cannot take away these three axes from electoral policy of our country. Even at the sub-national state, we saw what happened in Adamawa State. Of all the how many local government we have in Adamawa, they were cleared by the People's Democratic Party. Does this suggest that APC does not exist in Adamawa State?
Yeah.
What these things show you is that at some level we use institutions of state to grind electoral politics in our country. And that's why I think that for a serious opposition like the PDP, it must be thinking within and outside the box on how to unseat the APC. APC has tested power for 8 years. It will not be ready to give up power, in 2023.
Okay, Abdul, let's bring in Rotimi Amechi quickly before we go. Earlier on, you said he's a strong contender. But some critics have raised up this section or subsection 84 subsection 12, which was newly amended, in which a political appointee cannot veer for a particular position or even be voted for. Do you think this will have any effect on Rotimi Amechi's ambition?
Yes. Straight off, yes. If Amechi is sure of his political structure, is grounded in the region that he comes from, and he knows that he can mobilize vote for his own candidacy, I would think that when he announced his intention of running, the following morning he should have resigned. He should have resigned from his government. What the politicians are doing, they are hedging their bet. They are hedging their bet. They are not too sure of the implication of the judgment of the High Court in Umuahia in respect of Section 84 of the Electoral Act. And if we discern from what I heard from the news today, that the National Assembly has filed for leave to be joined, in the appeal, and the leave has been granted by the Court of Appeal. The Section 84, Section 12 Electoral Act will play a huge role on how politicians approach their own candidacy, approach their own ambition going forward. But if you ask me, that he has not resigned, highlights one of two things. Either he's hedging his bet, or he's not sure of his electoral fortune.
Thank you very much, Abdul Mahmood. We would like to say a big thank you to you for your contributions on the conversation.
Thank you for having me. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
You're watching The Conversation in News Central Television. When we return, we'll be looking at the political situation in Gambia, where the ruling National People's Party, the president's party, Adama Barrow, just won a majority in Parliament. We'll be looking at the implications of that in terms of the political situation in the Gambia. If you stay with us, we'll be right back. You're welcome back to The Conversation here on News Central Television. Now, Gambia's president's political party won a narrow victory in the legislative elections held on April the 9th. Adama Barrow's National People's Party won 19 of the 53 parliamentary seats up for grabs, according to the country's Independent Electoral Commission.
This means although the NPP has overturned the majority held by its main opponent, the United Democratic Party, they will have to seek for a coalition to govern the 58-seat chamber. The president will also have to appoint 5 additional lawmakers from his own party the next few days, including the Speaker of the House. President Barrow took power in 2017 and was re-elected last December, ending over 2 decades of dictatorship under Yahya Jammeh. The new parliament is due to be sworn in on April 14. Join us live on the conversation to discuss this. We have Fabakary Jammeh, legal consultant in the Gambia, and Mustafa Sonko, migration officer, the Gambia National Youth Council. Right now we have Fabakary Jammeh join us live on the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation at this time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right, so all eyes were on the election in the Gambia. Why exactly was it so crucial?
Well, the election was so crucial because of the fact that over the past 5 years, there has been a lot of corruption perception in the Gambia. And there has been this feeling that the current administration are not doing much to address this corruption perception. And also the rising cost of living across the country, coupled with insecurity across the country, are some of the reasons that makes these elections very crucial. Above all is the submission of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report to the presidency, which we expect to see the implementation to later of the report. So basically, these are some of the reasons why these elections are very important to the people of the Gambia.
Now, for Bakary, the results are out, and the Gambian Independent Electoral Commission did say that the ruling National People's Party, President Adama Barrow, won a majority. What are the political implications of this this win by the ruling party in Parliament?
Well, the ruling party, we can say, we are very disappointed because the results that we have seen in the presidential elections that they were able to come up with, they were not able to translate this in the National Assembly elections. Because in the presidential elections, they had we can say a landslide victory. But in the National Assembly elections, this is not what the people have seen. So there are questions how this happened, whether, whether people are not content, whether people are no longer satisfied with Adama Barrow's government or his administration, or whether there are some other factors that are not explained. So it is obvious that the results that we've seen in the presidential elections just 3 months ago are not translated into the National Assembly elections. And this creates a lot of doubts. And people are still asking questions, how did this happen?
Okay, now talking about the doubts, when we look at the election, one of the major stakeholders is the electoral umpire. How will you rate the conduct of the Independent Electoral Commission of the Gambia? Would you say the elections went on free and fair? And generally, what's your assessment?
Well, generally, the elections are peaceful, free, and fair. Although there have been some claims against the IEC, especially during the time of the presidential elections. But during the time of the National Assembly elections, these claims are not much as I've seen in the post-presidential elections. The only problem people have with the IEC was the rejection of one of the candidates by the name of Mahmoud Sabali based on the recommendations of the Jammeh Commission. This was a commission that was set up to look into some of the financial activities of the former president. So this doesn't go down with the people, especially the UDP supporters, because Mahmoud Sabali is a candidate that was trying to vie for the office of the National Assembly through the UDP ticket. So these are some of the issues that people were not very happy with the IEC over. So, but overall, the elections were peaceful, free, and fair across the country.
Now, for Bakari, there are reports of low voter turnout in the just concluded parliamentary elections. What, in your opinion, do you think is responsible for this voter apathy?
Well, like I said before, I think the voter apathy has to do with the lack of confidence in the people in the process. People don't trust the process anymore, and people don't trust their elected representatives, and people see them as rubber stamp parliament. So they don't want to take part in a process that they would legitimize people that would not fight for their rights, but they would be fighting for their own selfish interests. Another factor could be the fact that the elections were conducted in the month of Ramadan, and Gambia is a Muslim majority country where during the Ramadan people do not participate in these worldly things as elsewhere. So I think another factor is the fact that it was held in the Ramadan and people are not interested in these elections during the month of Ramadan. They don't want to participate in anything that has to do with worldly things during the Ramadan. I think that's also another indication. Also, I believe another reason for the lower voter turnout is the fact that people don't trust the government, the current administration. They wanted the current administration to take action over allegations of corruption, and also to address the rising cost of living in the country. So since those are not forthcoming, they also don't want to do anything that will legitimize the current administration.
Okay, for Bakari, you talk about voter apathy and also the fact that Adama Barrow's ruling party narrowly secured victory. Some analysts have said that the election will see President Adama Barrow strengthen his power after winning re-election last year. Do you think that is still possible? And how popular are his policies in the Gambia?
Generally, his policies are not very popular at the moment. Although he has been doing some things, but his policies are not popular in Gambia at the moment, and his popularity is going down in the Gambia. Like I said, and this has to do with the prevalence of corruption in the Gambia, the rising cost of living, the insecurity, and the inaction of the government to address all of these issues. So people are not very happy with this current administration, and they don't think that it would solve their problems for them. So if you look at the elections, for example, Adama Barrow was not able to win a single seat in the capital within the Greater Banjul area. This is unprecedented in the Gambia. This is the first time in the Gambia for an incumbent president to lose all the seats in the Greater Banjul region. And if you look at the most populous region also, that is the West Coast region, the president and his party didn't do very well there. All the seats in the West Coast region are either won by the opposition or independent candidates. So Adama Barrow's administration, the predictions that they would be able to consolidate their rule and also to be able to consolidate their position in the National Assembly didn't happen. This election didn't deliver that.
Now, for Bakari, there have been calls in various quarters for change of the 1997 Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia. Why is a constitutional amendment so important in the country now, and what are the issues with the 1997 Constitution?
The 1997 Constitution, the Constitution that was submitted during the 1997 referendum was a very progressive Constitution. It's a very good Constitution. However, along the way, there has been some amendments that were orchestrated by the former president, Yahya Jammeh, and these amendments, remove issues like term limit and also vested a lot of powers to the presidency as opposed to other areas of governance. Other areas of government, like the judiciary and the legislature. And the absence of term limit and also the powers that were given to the presidency and also absence of election financing monitoring and issues like the presidency having the power to choose the Speaker of the National Assembly and also additional members of the National Assembly, including five nominated members to participate in the National Assembly, are some of the issues why people wanted to get rid of the 1997 Constitution. However, there are other group of people that are advocating that, no, we don't need to get rid of 1997 Constitution. 1997 Constitution is a progressive one, although there are polluted parts. What we ought to do is to remove those polluted parts and amend them in order to, to reflect our yearnings and aspirations.
All right.
This is the position of some of the people.
Okay, Fabakary, so many disputed views on this particular constitution. And now join us live on the conversation is Mustafa Sonko, Migration Officer, the Gambian National Youth Council. Thank you so much for joining us, Mustafa, on the conversation. And we're talking earlier with Fabakary, we're looking at the impact of the elections. So in your own view, we saw the NPP win 19 of the 53 parliamentary seats. What effect do you think this would have on Adama Barrow's position as the president and even the party as a whole? Mustafa, can you hear me?
Okay, I think we lost Mustafa there.
Okay, we do.
Now, Fabakary, before we begin to wrap things up, earlier during your opening statement, you talked about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, that this elections will determine if its recommendations will be implemented. Last week in Burkina Faso, a former president, Blaise Compaoré, was sentenced to life imprisonment for his role in the assassination of Captain Thomas Sankara. Now, the Truth and Reconciliation and Reparations Commission in the Gambia was set up to investigate crimes and abuses perpetrated by Gambia's erstwhile president, Yahya Jammeh, during the course of its proceedings. We listened to some grueling testimonies. I remember listening to Mohammed Sandeng, the son of the journalist that was killed by Jammeh security forces, Solo Sandeng. Now, do you think President Barrow will follow through on the recommendations and perhaps former President Jammeh will be repatriated from Equatorial Guinea, where he's currently on exile?
Well, generally, the message coming from the Adama Barrow administration and Adama Barrow himself and his justice minister are that they are going to implement the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to the letter. And they said that this would include prosecution and this would also include reconciliation and reparations. So far, they are also engaged with stakeholders like the CSOs to ensure that they prepare for, prosecutions that are connected to the TRRC report. However, there are other issues that are also relevant and they worth mentioning. For example, the fact that before there could be any possible prosecution, we need to have some reforms in the judiciary and some reforms in the laws of the Gambia. For example, in the judiciary, there are judges, sitting judges that appear before the TRRC, and we don't expect those sitting judges to be hearing the cases that would be prosecuted before them. And also, the TRRC, we also understand that there are some senior judges up to the level of the Supreme Court that were also arrested and detained by people that are incriminated by the TRRC. So before going further to prosecute anyone in the Gambia or elsewhere, I think especially the people that bear the greatest responsibility like Yahya Jammeh, there is a need for reforms. And these reforms include judicial reforms, and these reforms include institutional reform, and also law reforms in order to be able to prosecute Yahya Jammeh and his enablers. However, also noteworthy is the fact that the Yahya Jammeh still has a very strong base in this country. As you can see, his APRC party, although they are split into two, they all together, if you put them together, they've won 7 seats in the National Assembly. And some of their candidates were citing that when they are elected, they would introduce a bill in the National Assembly that would bar any prosecution of Yahya Jammeh. So there is a mixed reaction as far as the general public is concerned. And also, Adama Barrow signaling what he is telling the Gambian population. We are saying, what we are seeing is his words are not complementing his actions. So
yeah, because the same Adama Barrow said he was only going to run for 3 years, and he's gone ahead to contest and win a second term in his office. So, you know, I guess he's a typical politician.
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Adama Barrow's words are not complementing his actions. That's very obvious. So basically what we are seeing, we are looking at the situation with open eye. We don't know what would happen because political expediency can be brought into play. We've seen this during the last presidential elections, when we've seen this over and over again. So we don't really know what Adama Barrow is going to do. And also considering the large support base that Jammeh enjoyed in the Gambia, and also the current treatment that he's receiving in Equatorial Guinea. So we thought it is not going to be easy to have Yahya Jammeh in the Gambia, to be prosecuted in the Gambia. Maybe it can happen in other places, but in the Gambia, it would really doubt us at this point in time.
All right, apart from the political intricacies of how popular Yahya Jammeh is, let's still go back to Adama Barrow's administration. Earlier on, you talked about corruption. I know that there are also issues of soaring inflation, which has also made Adama Barrow quite unpopular in the Gambia. So what do you think Adama Barrow can do to gain the affection of the people once again?
Adama Barrow can gain the affection of the people by ensuring that he acted in the best interest of the Gambian people. He take action against corruption in his administration. And people, you know, he should not be seen to be acting on double standards. And also, he should be seen to be furthering the interests of the Gambia, not regional countries or regional interests. Also, because, for example, when Adama Barrow came to power, since he came to power to date, there are foreign forces that are stationed in the Gambia. And some of these foreign forces do have problems with some regions in the Gambia, for example, the stronghold and the home of Yahya Jammeh in the Fonyi region where the Senegalese forces are based. So there is always a tension between this population and the Senegalese forces, and the presidency or the Adama Barrow administration would not even come out to condemn certain actions or to even issue statements towards that end. So these are some of the things that he must adjust and make sure that, you know, he took control of the country, he leads, and he should not be a silent leader. He should be on top of the activities and issues that are in the country, and also he should always address issues at the right time. But sometimes things would happen, Adama Barrow would not even come out to condemn or to even give a statement to reassure the Gambian citizenry. These are some of the things that make people lose hope in him.
Thank you for Bakari Jammeh for your contributions today on the conversation. We do appreciate your insight.
Thank you very much.
And that's it on today's edition of the conversation. In the first part, we spoke about the Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Osinbajo, throwing his hat into the presidential race. And in the second half, we just concluded our conversation with Bakari Jammeh, talking about the just concluded parliamentary elections in the Gambia and its implications, and Benga Aboroa.
And I'm Rita Omodia. The conversation also continues on our social media platforms at News Central TV. Do follow us there. Do join us again on Wednesday for another edition of The Conversation. Bye.